All right, good morning. We're going to get started here this morning. First off, glad to see a lot of familiar faces, although with the masks on, 90% of the time I can't tell who's who anymore. So I think they're familiar faces out there. So we meet again here at the Thrasher Horn Center for the 4th Annual Clay County Tourism Summit. My name is Mike Sella. I'm chairman of the Tourism Development Council and have been for the past 4 years. I'm also a member of the Board of County Commissioners here in Clay County. First, let me thank the Thrasher Horn Center for hosting our event today. They play a major role in our tourism effort in the county. It's only fitting that we hold a summit here. Bob Olson, thank you, and thank your staff for helping us out here with today's event. I'd like to acknowledge our tourism staff, Director of Tourism and Film, Kimberly Morgan. Kimberly there. And you can give her a big hand. She deserves it, and of course her assistant, Kate Savage, right there. Kate also deserves a big hand. I'd like to introduce some of our elected officials and county and town folks who are here today. First, let me thank the Board of County Commissioners for the county, because my colleagues have been nothing but short of extremely supporting of our effort in the tourism area. Commissioner Wayne Bola here at the table in the middle. And I think we may hear from you later on in terms of cycling. Yes, okay. Also, County Manager Howard Wanamaker, is he still here? There he is, all the way in the back. We got him the Bob Euchre seats, way back in the back there. Orange Park Town Manager Sarah Campbell, also here. Hello, Sarah. I don't think I've missed anybody else. And at this time, I'd also like to move on to thank our TDC board members. Gary Patel is here. Gary, raise your hand there. Thank you. And also Bob Olson, also on the TDC. You know, the TDC board is about as enthusiastic a group as I've ever worked with, and they deserve a lot of credit for the accomplishments that we've gotten here. Again, they've given us great support to move forward. Of course, everybody here is aware of how important tourism is for the state of Florida and our economy here in the state. It's generally considered to be the fifth largest industry in the state. And every year for the past decade, we seem to have set new records for numbers of tourists that visited, and more importantly, the amount of money that they spend here. However, in this year of 2020, we met a new challenge. That's right, coronavirus, COVID-19. You may have heard of it. It was something that when we met last year at the summit, we could have never dreamed of in our wildest dreams. It's devastated our tourism and travel industry for the past 7 months in the state and locally as well, and just now we're beginning to dare to think that we can even see a tiny light at the end of the tunnel. However, additional storm clouds may be forming for us on the horizon in Tallahassee. There'll be a big push to cut spending on the state level because of the loss of revenues due to the shutdown and other things as far as COVID-19 is concerned. And so some of our legislative leaders have already expressed a concern that Visit Florida may not get the kind of funding that they need to market Florida to the rest of the country and to the world. And as we emerge from under the COVID-19 cloud, we certainly need to remind tourists, not only from our country, but around the world, that Florida is still here and open for business. So in fact, it's more urgent than ever for Visit Florida to get not only their $50 million that they were budgeted for this year, but next year and in the ensuing years, and maybe even more. As you all know, if you're running a business, if you lose your customer, you need to spend even more to get them back again. So I would urge you to please contact your state legislators. We have a great state delegation. Some of that is going to be turning over this year, and we'll have new folks in Tallahassee to represent us. But please let them know that we need their support to keep Visit Florida going. And believe me when I tell you that, and Kimberly can also testify to this, that a lot of that affects what we do here on the local level. So please make that phone call, send that email. Looking back on the past 4 years of tourist summits, I can see and appreciate how far we've come as a tourism district. In year one, we met here, a lot of eager faces, and we dared to dream what tourism could be here in Clay County. Then in year two, we talked about it, tried to determine a direction. In year three, we planned for it. And in year four, here we are. I'm happy to say it's happening. And to back up my statement, Here's some info from an email update that I received at the end of last week from Kimberly telling us what was happening here in the county. Our brand new website, exploreclay.com, is up and running. It's been a long haul, but it's there. It's looking good. A few tweaks needed, but they're working on that. The October-November issue of Florida Country Magazine features the county in several different articles throughout the magazine, the result of a travel writer making a visit here and our staff taking such good care of them that they wanted to let everybody know what a wonderful place Clay County is. 2 advertising campaigns are underway to attract local and regional travelers. People may not be making such long trips anymore, but certainly they want to get out of the house. They want to get away from the backyard and get out and see what the world's all about. And we've got a 3 to 6 hour away drive market campaign going, and a second one for a 1 to 2 hour away local drive market. By the way, the local campaign is utilizing CARES Act monies, which came from the federal government to offset the impact of COVID on the local communities, and so we're using that to its fullest effect. And I think you'll see that commercial this morning. Is that right? All right, so that's good. We've got a 2-minute Wander Media video, a TV commercial that's complete, being shown in hotel rooms in Southeast Georgia and Northeast Florida, and at the Jacksonville International Airport. And I believe, Sarah, you saw that, right?
I did, yes.
She liked it so much that she thought, well, I've got to visit here. And I've seen it. It's very well done, and I want to visit here. So that makes 2 of us. You can check that on our Facebook page. I don't think Kimberly's going to show that to you today, but it is very well done. The first business in Clay County earned the FRLA seal of commitment. That's the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. Since then, over 100 businesses have earned the designation with a stated goal of about 1,000. And we found out through surveys that customers will go back to patronize a business if they think they are safe and they feel safe. And so that's a great program partnership with the Chamber of Commerce that awards a business from a third-party approval that they're doing things right to keep you safe. Safer event kits, purchased with CARES Act money, are being used and been reserved by the Amazing Grace Family Farms, Orange Park Festival, Hunter Jumper Horse events. I believe the road race, the bicycle race from last weekend also used one. And just recently, the Amazing Grace Family Farms opened up. They had a record opening, some 83% above their opening weekend last year. So folks are definitely looking to break out of the family room, backyard, lanai, whatever the case may be, where they've been hanging out for the past 7 months. The Whistling Death 5K road race down at the Military Museum attracted 350 runners, 83 from Clay County. So a majority of folks from outside of Clay County, some as far away as Australia. The Great American Road Race bicycling event held this past weekend attracted 225 riders from 10 different states, including one from California. That's an event set up and organized through our partners at Airstream Ventures. Joel Lamp is here. Joel is in the back. Joel. By the way, according to the latest STAR report, which is a report that gives us a rundown on hotel occupancy, average daily rate, and revenue per available room data, that indicated on Saturday, October 10th, which was the first day of the road race, the hotel average daily rate in Clay County was $84.95, which was the best since February of 2020, before the lockdown occurred. And the occupancy rate was 75.7%, which was just slightly behind another day. So it was the second best since February. So some of what we do does impact hotel stays and people being brought in from outside. And with just 225 participants, that's pretty impressive. Just imagine what the national event will do when they've got over 800 competitors and families coming to our county, Clay County, the Nationals, June 24th through the 27th, expected to generate some $2.3 million economic impact as well. Again, it's happening. Tour bus group of about 30 women from Port Orange visiting at the end of the month. And filmmakers are in the historic courthouse this weekend. And there's a lot more. Needless to say, Kimberly and Kate are two busy folks as they coordinate all this. Now, as the chairman of the TDC for the past 4 years, it's exciting for me to see the progress that we've made in attracting visitors to our area, and I hope you're excited too. And you may be wondering why all the fuss about tourism. Make no mistake, tourism is economic development. It has a variety of positive economic impacts in our county. Tourism contributes to sales, profits, jobs, tax revenues, and income in the county. And the most direct effects occur within the primary tourism sectors. That's lodging, restaurants, transportation, amusements, retail trade. And some say tourists are easier to attract than CEOs of companies that are looking to move or expand. The latest studies we have are several years old, but you may not have heard these numbers before. But they indicate that tourism contributes more than 3,000 jobs to our economy. In fact, if you condensed all those jobs into one entity, they would be a top 5 employer here in Clay County. It's estimated the economic impact is over $169 million. There's $36.1 million in local and state taxes that are generated, and that translates into a savings of $224 per household for each household here in Clay County in terms of saving them to having them to have to pay for taxes. Now, one of the biggest developments which has really propelled us forward this year is that we've partnered with a company called Airstream Ventures. And I introduced Joel Lamp. Joel and his partner, Alan Verlander, are the principals. They are essentially acting as our sports and marketing event department. And after just a couple of weeks on the job, you may have heard this, they landed the USA Cycling Amateur Road National Championships scheduled to be here in Clay County this past June, but postponed because of coronavirus. But good news is the Nationals will come to the county for 2021 and 2022. And as I mentioned before, just this past weekend, Airstream held a very successful Great American Road Race in conjunction with USA Cycling. It was a way to get people out, sort of judge what the temperature of the cycling community was, and it was really good. A lot of folks wanted to get out of the house again. So we were able to take advantage of that and learn a lot of things about what we should or shouldn't do when the Nationals come up this next year. They're also out there pitching us for a number of different events. We've got a Pop Warner Regional Championship game this fall coming here to Clay County. We've got the American Cornhole League regional event for Thanksgiving. Now, a lot of people laugh at the cornhole thing, but it's the ACL, the American Cornhole League, and it may be our shortcut to getting Clay County on TV, specifically ESPN on a Sunday afternoon. And wouldn't that be nice to sit on your couch and watch them talk about the virtues of having cornhole visit Clay County. We also have bids out for the Sunshine State Games, Florida High School Association events, golf tournaments, college golf tournaments, and many more, too many to list at this point in time. And this year, because of the pandemic, we're a little bit more aggressive from the TDC standpoint to support our local events. A lot of festivals, a lot of events canceled because of COVID. We awarded this year $115,000 to 13 events for marketing grants, and that included our signature events, the Clay County Agricultural Fair, the Northeast Florida Scottish Games, the Orange Park Fall Festival, and Moose Haven American Pride. COVID also delayed some of our events and some of our projects, including the improvements out at the fairgrounds, renovating the exhibition halls. We've got a $500,000 state grant that is waiting to be implemented so that we can do the repairs there, and we probably won't get to that till after the fair hits in April. But it is an exciting time in Clay County for tourism. As we move forward on so many fronts, and with the second phase of construction on the First Coast Expressway ahead of schedule, it's just a matter of time before tourists have a much easier time of accessing the county. So it is an extremely important time to set the table now for the future. And I think, and I hope you agree, that we're on the proper glide path as far as tourism is concerned. So I hope you walk away today with some optimism and a sense of vision that we have for our Clay County tourism effort. And I've said this, I think, at each of the different conferences before. It won't be easy, and it won't happen overnight. But look how far we've come in just a very short time. Clay County tourism can be a vibrant, huge contributor to our economic development, both in jobs and tax dollars. And I want to thank each one of you for being here today to show your support and for your interest in Clay County tourism. So let's get on with the program. My pleasure to bring up Kimberly Morgan, our tourism and film director, and she's got more good stuff for you.
Is it on? Okay, good. Thank you, Commissioner Sella. I so appreciate you being here today and leading the TDC and leading the charge for us to make all of these great meet all these great milestones in such a short amount of time. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to give you a quick run through. Go ahead and this is what we're going to talk about today, y'all. And so I'm so excited to tell you some of the marketing opportunities that we're going to be presenting to you in the future. We're going to tell you a little bit more in depth about some of the things that Commissioner Sella talked about so that you know exactly what's happening and how you can engage with us in bringing more tourism here and making sure that they're doing business with you, because that's the point. And then we're going to end today's presentation with our friend Brian London, and he's going to talk about how you as businesses in the hospitality and tourism industry can create memorable and unique experiences. Because y'all, at the end of the day, no, my hoteliers, please, forgive me for saying this, but a hotel room is a hotel room is a hotel room. The people that are in the hotels make the hugest difference. So your staff and the experience that they create and the tools that you give them to create that experience are what make the difference. You can control what experience your guests have, not only on the hotel side, but on the attraction side and in the retail side. So I can't wait to hear what Brian tells us about the little things that you can do that make a big difference in the experience. So, tour groups. Y'all, we are gonna welcome Royal Coach Tours from Port Orange. They are gonna be here October 30th in Green Cove Springs, learning about the history of our county. Who knew that people would wanna come? I mean, this is a market that quite frankly, I'll be honest, I thought was kind of dying off. So we didn't spend a whole lot of time pursuing, but they reached out to us, and now we've got another one from the Villages. So there's this group of 500 ladies from the Villages that travel together. And so I can't promise you that all 500 will come at the same time, but they will make their way here. They are excited about learning more about Best Bet and some of our history, visiting our military museums, and doing some fun activities here. So we are telling them and equipping them with how they can create a great experience for their customers, and they're coming here to spend their money here. So that's the key, is getting them to spend their money here in our community. We've also got some events and sports stuff that we'll talk about a little bit more later. Film development, y'all. People are filming in Clay County. A lot. We've had a lot of commercials filmed. This weekend, there's an actual movie that's going to be, released mainstream. They're using our courthouse for a scene, a courtroom scene. So, great opportunity for us to be on the big screen. Travel writers. This is going to be a top priority for us in the coming year. We are so excited to bring travel writers here so that they can write about the things that interest their writers. A lot of them are going to be freelancers that write for several different publications. But you saw the fruit, or you will see, if you haven't already, the fruit of our one travel writer visit in June. He ended up writing 2 different articles, and he didn't even scratch the surface of what's here in Clay County. So we're excited about that opportunity. Also, Visit Florida. I got an invitation yesterday, and I'm so excited about this. This is a new Visit Florida opportunity. It's a digital media mission. Usually when you do a media mission, you go to a room like this, and the different publications have tables, and we as destinations go around and say, this is who we are as a destination, and la la la. So they have come up with a solution during the pandemic to be able to host a media mission. So we'll get to talk to people like Southern Living, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and tell them all about the great things to do here in Clay County. So hopefully we'll get selected to be the few that get to be part of that media mission. So I'll keep you updated on that. And so one of the things, that being said, one of the things that's so important for Kate and I in doing our job is making sure that we're communicating and engaged with you. If we don't know what's happening in your business, we don't get to tell your story. And so it's so important for us to be on your newsletter list, on your press release list. We're following you guys on social media as much as we can, but the information that you're about the things that you're doing every day, we want to know about. Because the tourism department doesn't own anything, and we don't manage anything except the message. And the only way we can manage the message is if you tell us what to say. And we want to be your mouthpiece to amplify what you're saying to your customers and to get customers into your door. And then media marketing, we're going to tell y'all about that. For the first time ever, Clay County has an agency of record. We have contracted with Evoke Advertising out of Lake Mary, Florida. They went through the RFP process and competed and won our bid. And they are rocking it, and you'll see some of that in just a little bit. So actually, you'll hear about it now. This is one of our radio ads that's in both, it'll be both in market and out of market. So the CARES Act project that we have a dedicated funding amount for local marketing. Y'all, at the end of the day, the number one reason that people visit any destination, it doesn't matter what destination it is because they're visiting friends and family. And so, again, I know that people are that visit family here, are going to go to St. Augustine. And I know they're gonna go to Jacksonville. But we need to make sure that they're educated enough to spend lots of time here in Clay County, because there's lots of great things to see and do. So this ad talks a little bit about that. Hopefully technology works with us. Is it gonna work? And y'all, the picture on your right is the homepage of our website. It's also one of our display ads that we're using in our digital marketing campaign. Actually, all of the ads that we're placing now are digital, and that's simply because it's just more flexible. If things start to change in the market, we can be nimble with a digital ad more so than print or broadcast. So, okay. Maybe it's not gonna work. So maybe we'll try the video next. Because I think that's next. You wanna go on? Oh, so our digital, see, this is our digital screen ads. Y'all, you'll see, hopefully you've already seen some. When you're scrolling through Facebook, you've seen some of our ads. Like I said, there's the local campaign is the 1 to 2 hour drive market, and then these are also going to be in the 3 to 5 hour drive market that we traditionally pursue. And then I think now is the video, maybe. Oh.
Do you hear that? That's the sweet sound of our Florida getaway. The kind that starts with quiet mornings on calm waters and ends with roasted marshmallows under the stars. Here in Clay County, we're not afraid to explore new passions. Whether it's casting a line on vast waterways or going the distance on open trails, you'll be immersed in an authentic experience that redefines a Florida vacation. Visit exploreclay.com to discover what moves you and plan your stay today.
Echo, you know? Wow. Okay. So we're gonna. I think the next thing we're gonna do is. I know that's special effects. Okay, what's the next slide? So Wander Media. Let me tell you. Oh gosh, y'all. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Wander Media is a locally owned media company. They actually do Visitors TV. Can y'all hear me without this? Okay, so Visitors TV is in the hotel rooms. It's at the airport where Sarah saw it when she got off the plane from her weekend trip. So Wander Media is a strategic partner of ours. And we partnered with them to do what we call our sizzle reel, which is just an overview of the destination. So we are now part of a growing group of destinations that are on Wander Media. Jacksonville's there, St. Augustine's there, so is Amelia Island and the Golden Isles of Georgia. So Clay County is the fifth part of the equation there. And we're developing a program so that we can hopefully have our own channel. So that all the Clay County hotels will be able to play is Clay County videos. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but I want you to see the video.
From its pristine freshwater lakes and rivers to its pine forest interior, Clay County is naturally beautiful. Situated in Northeast Florida, it's a short commute from both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. Clay County offers something for everyone and is a haven for those who love nature and the great outdoors. The county has golf courses, parks, nature trails, one-of-a-kind shopping, incredible coffee shops, fresh local fare, historic sites, and military museums that share the rich history of our country. For those who live life passionately and with conviction, Clay County is a fabric of communities, waterways, natural wonders, and caring people whose history and future are centered at the values of faith, hard work, service to country, and nature. Whether it's living, working, or playing, passions run deep here. The quaint, one-of-a-kind small towns and neighborhoods of Clay County deliver a great experience that you can't find anywhere else. A spring-fed swimming pool. Local, family-owned and operated restaurants that treat you like family. And treasures found at local boutiques and antique shops. These small towns make you feel like it's your hometown. So join us in Clay County for a breath of fresh air.
Hopefully that makes you want to come visit. So y'all, one of the things that I want to be sure that everybody understands, all of that footage and every picture that you will see in any Clay County marketing from the tourism department is authentic. It is not stock footage. It is not stock photos. This is really Clay County, okay? I think that's important for you to know because I've had people say, that isn't here. It is. Are y'all excited about that? Like, I'm really excited about that. I know, that's exciting stuff. So, so the great thing is that Wander Media, we own this video, Wander Media owns this video, and anybody who partners with Wander Media will own their video too. So we're gonna develop a co-op program. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it because we're talking about this. We're developing a co-op program. So if you want to have your own Wander Media video, the tourism department will pay for some of it. So we're gonna be on the lookout for more information about that. But I'm telling y'all, you cannot buy a video, a 60-second video, for $2,500. That is a steal. So come talk to me afterwards about that and I'll give you more information. So this is our Florida Country magazine spread. We were in, Green Cove Springs was featured in the August-September issue. And then the right side shows you the spread for the October-November issue that talks about various, we have 3 articles in there. Amazing Grace Family Farms, a Clay County overview, and Club Continental and Azaleana Manor were featured in there as well. So we got a lot of coverage off that one travel writer visit. This you guys can't see this, but this is what our marketing plan looks like. There's a lot going on. We've got for the first time ever, we're going to be on what they call OTT, which is if you see YouTube and Netflix, we're going to have ads there. So that's pretty cool. Are y'all excited about that? I'm really excited about that because we've never done that before. Yeah. So, woo! Okay, so new website. So we're going to kind of walk you through this. Up here in the corner up here, it says explore your passion. That's like a little quiz, a little interactive quiz where you can say, what do I want to do? What am I interested in? And then based on that, you get to select the filter. It's basically a filter. You get to see all the certified businesses that we'll talk about later for safety, certified safety businesses, food and drinks, attractions, arts and culture, sports, anything like that. And then when you click next, it gives you a list of businesses that you can start to use to plan your itinerary here. So you don't have to search the whole site, you don't have to guess, we make it easy for you. So, now, y'all, remember how I said, help us tell your story? Which page would you rather click on? The one with the photo. So, y'all, if we don't have a photo of you, this is what it looks like. Now, that's part of our logo, and it's pretty, but it doesn't make me want to come there. So make sure that we have your photos and your brief description so that your page is more engaging to the visitor. Okay, and now, the events page. Y'all, this is always the most visited page on the website. Doesn't matter where it is, people want to know what's happening. And you can see Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is when all the events are, right? So each event has a page of its own, just like every business. You can visit their website. You can add it to your calendar, which is a great feature. But the other thing that I want to make sure that you all know is you can submit an event. So if you have a special event at your business, you can submit it here, and it can show up on our calendar. So if you've got a tournament going on, if you've got a special highlight, a grand opening of a new exhibit, anything like that, let us know. Also, visitor guide. So in your packet today, I'm going to hold up your little packet. This is your experience bag for today. Okay? And Brian will talk a little bit more about creating. We could not have a create an experience workshop without creating an experience, right? So you've got a bag of goodies that has your visitor's guide in it. So we continue to work with the Clay today on this guide, but again, if you don't tell us what your story is, we can't put it in here, okay? You also have in your bag a postcard of Camp Chwenwa tree houses. We'll talk about that later. And then you've got some sunscreen and a pen, and then most of your tables are themed, but there's a destination photo. Just something for you to take home and say, this is where I live. This is where people want to visit. So anytime that you guys want any more information about the visitor's guide, let us know. We're kind of rethinking about what that looks like, so we will continue to keep you up to date on that. The Wonder Media Co-op, we're going to pay half of the $5,000 to get the 60-second video made, and the business pays $2,500. So it's a great deal. So you'll be hearing more about that later this week. Research. Y'all, we don't make any marketing decision without the data to back it up. We just don't. We're not wizards, and we just, throw it at the dartboard and hope that it sticks. We use data to make those decisions, and it takes research to do that. So if you guys need research, let us know, and we'll see how we can build that into the plan. Events. USA Cycling. Y'all, that's coming quick. It's June 21st through the 24th through the 27th. Thank you to Joel and Airstream Ventures. And y'all, just a quick rundown of all the other things that they've got in the pipeline for us. Pop Warner Bowl Game, November 14th and 15th. Australian Rules Football Regionals. It's coming in 21, 22, and 23. American Cornhole League. We're working on things for 20, 21, and 22. Y'all, Supix Cross, I don't know, however you say it. It's the National Paddleboard Championship. And y'all, it is going to be way cool. So you know that, so not only do they come with the National Paddleboard or the paddleboards, but they also come with those things that the jet packs that you fly off the water. You know what I'm talking about? There's a championship for that too, so that's coming with it. Y'all, that's pretty exciting. Like, that's like made for TV stuff, right? Are y'all excited? Like, that is cool stuff. So there's youth wrestling coming, Sunshine State Games. That is like Florida Olympics, okay? And then the Florida, yeah. So cyclocross, it's like extreme cycling. Wouldn't you say, Joel? Is that a good example?
It's a cross between cycling and running through obstacles.
Yeah. So Mary Spartan with the cycling race. Okay? Gonna happen here in Clay County, y'all. Yeah, y'all. Now, I know it's early, and I know we didn't have coffee, but that is cool stuff. Okay. So, new marketing opportunities. So we have partnered with many different organizations, and I'm going to run through them really quick. We've already talked about Wander Media. I've already told you about Visit Florida. Florida Outdoor Writers Association is, they are people that like to write about outdoor things. And we are the perfect destination for them to write about. I did ping them a little bit ago about the Gold Head getting their national register. They're on the National Registry of Historic Places now. And people were like, you know, I haven't been to Northeast Florida in a while. So we're going to start to see some traffic from them. Our friends at Florida's First Coast of Golf, they are great partners of ours. We're getting ready to do a blog post with them on the 19th hole, which means we're going to talk about our dining at our golf clubs. We've done... we partnered with y'all for Florida Huddle and a lot of different things for golf. So we've got ads in Virginia Golfer through them and a lot of social media presence through their organization. I'm going to go back to Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. Y'all, if you are not, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I can encourage you. Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association is a huge advocate for our industry. And before I steal any of her thunder, I'm actually going to have Nicole Chapman from FRLA come up and give you a few little tidbits about what they're doing. We are partnering with them for the Seal of Commitment, which is making sure that your place of business is safe. That's for lodging and restaurants. So Nicole, I'm going to let you take it for a few minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicole Chapman with the Florida Restaurant Lodging Association. I'm our Northeast Director, so I'm located right here in Northeast Florida, and I actually live right here in Clay County. So this is one of my favorite things to attend every year because I get so energized that I live and get to work here. So a few of the highlights. We are the ones that work daily with the governor's office to keep Florida open. So what we do on a normal daily basis is we are your state trade association. So we're advocating for you every single day. When COVID hit, we shifted gears just like everybody else did and said, hey, Governor, we bring so much money into the state, let's not close us down, let's keep us open. So as other states are staying closed, we are open. So thank you all for taking those protocols and extra steps to keep your guests, and most importantly, your employees safe right now. So with that, we developed the Seal of Commitment. That is a program just for Florida. There's many programs out there. There's some through the American Hotel Lodging Association, some through the National Restaurant Association. We wanted to create something that was just for Florida. So with that, we've partnered with Clay County to help cover some of the cost for this program. It's a 3-step program for restaurants and hotels. You submit your, if you have food service in your hotel, you submit your food handler certificates to make sure everyone's up to date. You take our either online, or I can send a trainer out, our COVID sanitation training class. And then we also want to make sure that you have standard operating procedures in place. All of our hotels have those, but many restaurants, those owners say, oh, it's in my head, we got it. But we really want to make sure in this day and age, things are written down. Because obviously one of the biggest questions we are all getting from all of you is COVID liability. Please know that we have already talked with so many legislatures in the House and Senate, and it's working its way through the committee, that come session, which starts in March, that will be one of the very first things they handle. We're getting a lot of pressure from our state peers that have already done this. So our legislatures are listening and making sure that that is something that will take effect immediately. Something else that we hope some of you have benefited from is that to-go beverage. We are pushing the legislature to change the beverage code forever to keep that going. Obviously, they'll put some restrictions in there to make sure it truly is a to-go beverage. You cannot drink until you get home. But we're pushing for that too, and hoping to continue to bring some revenue into businesses. The other fun thing I wanted to talk about today, we are 19 days away from the election, if we're counting, but it is Amendment 2. Amendment 2 for Florida, ballot Amendment 2, focuses on the increase to minimum wage. So, how does this totally affect our industry? We are an industry that is an industry of opportunity. On the restaurant side, you can start as a dishwasher, and in 5 years, you can own the restaurant because you worked your way up and you learned. Our hotels, all of you are paying above minimum wage. Your jobs are not low-level jobs. They're paying above minimum wage, with folks having the opportunity to come in at that training wage and work their way up the chain as well. So we are estimating, if this passes, with this pandemic going on too, we will lose an additional 138,000 jobs forever in Florida if this passes. We are the only state that has a minimum wage on the state level, not just cities, and it will start next year in September going up to $10, and then every year after that until we get to 2026, where it's $15. But we're not done. In 2027, at that point, it's tied to the CPI and will continue to rise. So that's something all of us need to take into effect, and just make sure you understand the implications of how this will affect your business. We want you as business owners to choose what you pay your employees. If this does pass, the hard thing is those folks already making $10 or $11 are going to come to you and say, hey, where's my pay increase? Everyone else got one. Where's mine too? So obviously, this is a yes or no. This isn't a yes, but maybe we should do this with it. This is a yes or no because it is a ballot amendment. Just a reminder on civics, ballot amendments only have to have a 40% no to make sure it doesn't pass. We are very close with our polling, so we are out there trying to just educate everybody. You probably have not seen a lot about it. It's very hard to raise money for this program in the middle of a pandemic. So we are trying really hard to just grassroots educate everybody. We encourage you to go to our website, Amendment 2 Hurts You. Also follow us on Facebook page. We've got a lot of great stuff there that you can easily share. We've got some great stories from frontline employees that are opposed to this as well, especially our servers, because they're making really great money working 20 hours a week. So that's kind of in a nutshell today, but we are here to support all of you all the time and know that we're fighting and talking to the governor's office daily to make sure that we can stay open safely.
Thanks, Nicole. And y'all, the seal of commitment is a great way to market your business. We are going to put the seal and the Chamber's Commit to Clay logo for anyone who's not a hotel or a restaurant. The Chamber has that program. We're going to put that seal and certification on our website, on your page, so that people know that you have gone above and beyond and making sure that that your staff is safe and that the customers are safe. I do want to give a shout out to the Holiday Inn Orange Park. They're going to receive their certification tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So thank you, TDC member Susan Hill, for participating in the program and making sure that everyone's safe at your hotel. So now, y'all, one of the things that we do in tourism is what we call product development, making sure that we have a solid product to sell and market to visitors. And one of the I would say active participants in our product development plan is our Bikeways, Blueways, and Trails Committee. We've had a mountain bike trail birthed from this committee. We became a Blue Ways community from a recommendation from this committee. And Commissioner Wayne Bola has been active in that group and steering them where they should go. I think he's going to talk to you a little bit about today about a trail that is on the docket to hopefully become a priority trail. So Commissioner Bola?
Well, thank you, Kimberly. Originally, we thought we would do a full-scale pitch here for this product development, but I understand this is not the venue for that. So I'll give you kind of the 10,000-foot view here. Over the last, I've been a commissioner now for about 8 years, and over the last probably 10 years, we've received a number of economic development studies. One of the key things on most of those studies is that Clay County should exploit what they call ecotourism, which what we see here with all these bicycle races and that kind of stuff is kind of happening all at once. So we got together a bunch of folks who are interested in doing ecotourism kinds of things, and Chris Rodatz is chairing this. And we split the committee up into two groups. One is focused on the Blue Ways, which is Clay County's got one of the greatest river assets here in the whole state. And we don't have to build anything. We put in a couple of kayak launch points. Hopefully in the future we can start attracting some more water-related activities. And I saw up on here, we've got one going on with the paddleboard thing. That's great. I think what we need to do is kind of think about how can we come and host maybe a kayak race or something of that order. Because we don't have to build anything. It's just a real natural, and it's probably one of the best assets we've got in the county. The second piece of the group was focused on bicycles. And I don't know if we have any bicycle shops represented, but you can't buy a bicycle in Clay County right now. They're all sold out. It's a great outdoor activity. So what we've been looking at is how can we latch up a lot of these standalone bicycle trails in the county to come up with a unified routing that we can get from, say, Duval County all the way down to Goldhead State Park. And then from there you can continue down on a number of other trails. So we've been working closely with Duval County. I'm on the TPO there, and they've got quite a bit of interest in doing a joint project with us. And one of the projects that came up was a route that would go from Duval County through Jennings State Forest and on down through Orange Park and continue on down through the county. The piece that we're looking at specifically right now would involve getting around Cecil Field and in through Jennings State Forest. Now that was kind of a big deal because you just can't build a road in Jennings State Forest without a lot of coordination. So I think we've pretty well got to the point where we're ready to progress on that. We made some agreements tentatively with Cecil Airport, and we've got a route picked out. And eventually what we're going to need to do is come up with some seed money to do a study on how to progress that thing. So what I was looking, it dawned on me, gee, this is a great opportunity for the tourist folks to step up, because this is going to bring a lot of stuff to the county, I think, like some of the bike park we just opened up. And so what we're looking for initially would be some kind of study money. And like I said, we'll talk to the group here a little later on when we're really ready to roll with this thing. But that's kind of what we're looking at. And a little bit of seed money to develop a bike trail will go a long way. These things are not that expensive to build. And we're, with the support of the other county commissioners and our county manager, we're starting to move pretty fast on this now. So just a little overview on where we're going with this, and you'll be hearing more about this in the future. All right, thanks a lot, Kimberly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, Commissioner. And that committee, I mean, y'all, it's a committee of concerned citizens that are willing to put in the work and work alongside the county to make things happen. So it's a testament to what we can do together. With that, I don't have anything else to fill y'all in on. That's kind of where we're at and what we're doing in the tourism department. And we are excited to be working with you and for you. And so now I'm going to introduce our wonderful presenter, Brian London. Brian has worked with us for a few years doing research, but most recently he, right before COVID, we worked together on a coffee house itinerary where he went to the different did y'all know that we have like 8 different independently owned coffee houses in Clay County? That is awesome. And they all have their own different experiences, their own different vibes, their own different flavors, their own different assets. So that creates a great experience. So when you tie them all together, then you're tying great experiences all together. And that's what makes people want to come here. If it's unique and it's different and they have a great experience. So with that, Brian became an expert on all the coffee shops in Clay County. And he's going to tell us not only what he learned here, in Clay County, but he's going to talk to you all about how you can take what you have and create memorable and unique experiences for your guests. So, Brian, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, wonderful. All right, that's me. That's my commissioner's headshot. So, well, great morning, everyone. All right. Oh, thank you. Today is National Grouch Day. I don't know if you knew that. So if you're not nice, I'll just assume you're honoring the day. That's nice. Who here has seen me present before? Show of hands. Wonderful. Welcome back. Thank you for doing that. I have actually presented here at Clay County Tourism Day once before, and they've invited me back. I think it says a lot about your speaker to be invited back, Doesn't say everything, but it says some things. Yeah. Let's give them one more chance. I think that's what it says. I'm going to take my mask off here, and look at that. Okay, now you can have the round of applause. That'll be better. Or wait till the end. It's up to you. I'm going to talk to you about experiences today, and this is designed to be an overview. In fact, really what it's designed to do is almost to be a type of scaffolding, where my role is to just categorize probably concepts and ideas that you're already familiar with, or that you've already seen, or that you might even already be deploying. But I'm just going to start to categorize them the way that consumers categorize experiences or activities or things to do. And by the end of it, you'll be able to take your product development and your customer experience process and start to fill in these gaps. You'll see by the end of this that you're doing some of these things, but not all of these things. And then other businesses are likely doing the opposite and so forth. It looks... Oh, yeah, I'd go back a bunch. Let's go back to the beginning. Yeah, that's me. That's at a golf course here. And any golf players in the audience? Yeah. And oh, I forgot to tell you, this is an interactive session. Yeah, I should have led with that. You, sir, in the back, what's the last time you played golf? Well, whoever raised their hand, my glass prescription hasn't. A year ago? Yeah. How did you do? Terrible. That probably explains the gap. COVID. Exactly. And the reason I call out that particular golf experience is that a lot of things that we see today and a lot of things that you're offering in the marketplace, keep in mind that you're offering it day after day after day after day, but the consumer might have some time in between. And so it's important not to take for granted just because you think it's obvious, because it's obvious to you, in the consumer's mind, it might be a little bit different, as we heard here. Yep. I'm a scratch golfer. Just if you didn't know that means every time I hit the ball, I said, where did it go? scratch. All right, next slide. This, I'm an economist by training, and that means I'm interested in money and why some businesses prosper and other businesses take longer to prosper. And the answer has to do with how fast dollars or revenue circulates. And that makes sense, right? If money is constantly coming in, then you have a bigger chance to be prosperous. If money comes in, trickles in, right, comes in more slowly, it's a little bit harder to be prosperous. I went to school for that. Could you imagine? And so what I learned along the way is that for businesses, there's essentially this continuum, this line. And at some point, what you're doing needs more marketing dollars in order to amplify the message in the marketplace. However, at a certain point, it's not about the additional marketing dollar. At a certain point, it's about our ability to develop the product in such a way that will engage and excite the consumer for them to open up their wallet and spend money. And I'm interested in mathematically modeling where that line is. There are no numbers in today's presentation. But I want you to know that everything you're seeing has this mathematical background to it. And if you are interested in what the model might look like, you just let me know. And if you're having trouble sleeping, I will tell you the story of how we model this. We're going to talk about these 4 things here, an experiential sweet spot, which is essentially consumers want 4 things whenever they go somewhere. We're going to talk about what those 4 things are. Here again is that scaffolding idea. And so your opportunity is to think about what you're offering in the marketplace and just make like a little checkbox. Do I do this? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? If you're not doing it, I'm going to encourage you to take some activity to check that box. If you have questions about how to go about it, this is the forum for which you're able to do it. Okay, we're going to talk about an ability to focus on theme. That means not being distracted by outside influences. You ever go somewhere and just be like totally like, wow, I'm here. Like there's no other distraction, right? Some attractions or facilities do a really good job of that. And then other places you go to, you're like, wow, what is this place? It's just, you might not know where you are because there's so many competing or influencing factors. So, of course, the number one in Florida tourism industry for, totally themed experience, of course, would be the Great Mouse, right? The Mouse attraction. Everyone knows what that is? That's the China Walk kitchen. It's a Great Mouse attraction. Disney World. Has anyone been to Disney World? Wonderful. Most memorable thing about Disney World in the back pink dress? Wonderful. A theme within a theme. Mm-hmm. Good. And so what we're just trying to do here is just kind of get, stretched out, just start thinking about the different places we go to and experiences that we have and their ability to theme. There's 2 other components to this experience and this mathematical index, and that is the booking method and the duration of the engagement. So on the booking method, we essentially have this split personality for how you want customers to pay you money, how you want them to book, and how the customer wants to go about booking and paying you money to do the experience. So if you've ever gone to like a fair or a festival or an event, and you've stood in a really long line to pay your money, and then you get your receipt, and then you walk to the left, and you go forward a couple steps, and you give the guy your receipt, and now you're in to the thing, right? That's an unnecessary bottleneck, consumers would say, to the booking process, okay? And through the use of technology and other things which we'll talk about, and you'll share examples for what you're doing, you'll see how we can mitigate the booking method in order to make it a more enjoyable experience. Then, of course, on duration of event. For some of us, we know that a short time actually leads to a better experience. At Starbucks, for example, I can pre-order on my phone, pay through my phone, be alerted when it's ready, walk right in, grab my cup from the counter, and leave. That's a very short experience, duration of engagement inside Starbucks. But I'm extremely satisfied with that. I wouldn't have it any other way. The folks that set up their laptop and just kind of hang out, I don't get it. Good for them, but it's not for me. But for them, that's their preferred duration of engagement. And so now here you have a business with 2 different consumer types, both with different expectations for how long it should be that they're on property, both having high levels of satisfaction with two different durations of experience. And as business owners, we have to acknowledge that and at least accept it. Next slide. All right, now for the math. As I'm sharing these examples with you, we're just kind of getting stretched out here. We're just kind of starting to think about the things that we see and experience. These are what consumers and visitors see and experience. And as they're seeing these images, as you're seeing them, they're starting to form in their mind perceptions of I like this or I don't like this, or I would change this or I wouldn't change this, or more importantly, this is okay enough for me to proceed, or I've seen something where I no longer am interested in engaging with it. On the right-hand side is a stroller, a sales floor where they sell baby strollers, and they have a pathway of different types of surfaces that you might encounter pushing a stroller. Our son is 5 years old now. It's been a while since we pushed a stroller. Is anybody currently pushing a stroller? 1, 2. The front wheels on the stroller lock and unlock. Took us 2 years before we knew that. We were so embarrassed, having so much trouble turning corners. And then another parent told us, well, those wheels unlock. And I was thinking, gosh, I wish the sales individual had told us that when we were purchasing a stroller, because that would have made a life of difference. So here it is. They are essentially trying to theme the experience and engage you in different quadrants, which we'll call the experience sweet spot. We're going to talk about what those quadrants look like. But for now, just get the concept that they're not just selling stuff. They're trying to engage you in what it means to use that stuff. And that's what consumers will pay a premium to do. Sometimes we call it the Lowe's premium. If you've ever been to Lowe's versus Home Depot, you probably know. I see some head nodding. You see what I'm talking about. On the right-hand side is a county park. This is a county park where they put up a little butterfly garden, and then they added a little display and a life cycle of butterflies. You know, I feel bad for folks in Parks Division. You know, there used to be a time where if a park needed a bench, you could just add a bench. And now you've got to use like reclaimed wood from a petrified forest, and you've got to put a big plaque up there and talk about the history of the wood and like really, you know, QR code, and everybody watches a video about how the bench was made. It's like, but this is what we know consumers want, so we have to meet them where what they want. All right, so as you're looking at these, you should be thinking about ideas of stuff that you've seen in your own local parks or places you've been where it was more than just purchasing the item, but that there was actually some sort of display. And I'll pause here if anybody wants to share an example with us of something that they've encountered either locally or on their last travels. And this is very important because I'm going to give this presentation again to another group, and I need your idea to fill out that presentation.
I went to a candy factory recently, and you couldn't tour the candy factory, but they had a room this big filled with bins of candy. And somebody I was with said, you know, is there a way that we can taste some of the candies to decide which one we wanted? And they said, yeah, just reach in the bin and take what you want and have a bite. And it was like a whole store, like really, you can try any piece of candy in the entire store that you want to try.
Yeah, that's a wonderful example. Thank you for sharing that. And that's the kind of customer experience that, in this case, makes the difference. And I'm suggesting to you that in a lot of other cases that makes the difference. Now, doesn't mean they need to try the beds before they book the hotel room, but it does mean that I know there's a store at the Jacksonville Town Center, and I think it's a Casper store, where they have little bedrooms set up where you can actually lay in the beds and test them out before you purchase one for firmness and unfirmness, things like that. Next slide, please. These are, on one side is an educational display at my, I think it's local Tire Kingdom. They have a little display about tires and how tires wear and kind of the technology related to tires. This is just a display that, again, from the business side, it removes the interaction between the service employee and the customer, trying to talk you through. And it allows the individual customer to just see for themselves what's going on and to educate themselves a little bit about what's going on with their vehicle. One of the important components to hitting the experience sweet spot is educating the customer about something, teaching them something they didn't know before, but now they can learn about it. In the stroller example, you're educating them on what the different surface types might be when you purchase a certain stroller. In this case, they're talking about tire wear and tear at at a tire sports facility. Over here is a component. We saw this in Asheville, North Carolina. Was there this past weekend. This is UNC Asheville women's tennis team donating tennis balls. This is at a dog pet store. Sorry, I forgot to tee it up there. It's at a pet store here, and with among all the other merchandise that they sell, they also have this community engagement style of tennis balls that you can get. This is their most popular item because it's a very low barrier to entry, right? You can and you feel like you're supporting the local community. And what the shop owner knows, that all of you also likely already know, is that once you can get the first thing in somebody's cart, it's a lot easier to get the second thing, right, and the third thing. And of course, retail establishments are very good at this, and they're doing it here, and there's a lot that we can learn from this. So you're looking at a slide like this, and what I want you to be thinking and taking notes on is, okay, what is it that I offer that could be kind of an easy, low-cost item that can be the first item in someone's cart, just to get them holding something, just to get them thinking about what it is to be here in the shop here. On this side is the parking enforcement office in Duval County. When you go to pay your ticket, you also get a chance to see the Museum of Parking Meters. And they're showing you, they say, hey, look, you think it's bad now. Could you imagine not having a penny on you? Back in 1932, you didn't have any pennies. It'd be awful. On the other side is at the Madison, Wisconsin airport. This is while you're waiting. You can, in partnership with the local library, you can print out a story, 1 minute, 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, and you read the story while you're waiting. Engages you. So here again, this is an example of that duration of stay that we talked about earlier. What's the itinerary while you're at a particular place? We know you're there, but what is it we want you to be doing while you're there? This leads to the next thing for your notes, which is, while somebody's in my facility, what is the exact thing I want them to do? What's your exact ideal thing you want them to do? That becomes your baseline, and then we can pair that to what visitors or consumers are actually doing. The difference is your gap, okay? And so now you're management consultant, gap analysis, you're off to the races. Your job is to close that gap as much as possible. These concepts on the screen should help you do that, okay? If you're a facility or an attraction and you think somebody could spend an hour here, but they're only spending 20 minutes, there's great concepts, ways to keep them engaged and more involved. That's me. I was traveling, but I wore my Florida shirt. Does anybody know where I am or where I'm standing? Any guesses? Not even a guess? I'll give you a hint. I was there in October. A pumpkin patch. That's a pumpkin patch. And right behind my leg is a pumpkin. I think I have another slide you'll see in a minute of the pumpkins themselves. I'm a city boy, and I didn't realize that until I went to a pumpkin patch. Has anyone here been to a pumpkin patch, a real pumpkin patch on a farm? Yeah. When I got home, we live right on the corner of a church. There's a church on the corner of the neighborhood where we live, and they've got a big sign outside, and it says, "Come to our pumpkin patch and buy these pumpkins." And I thought, no, that's not a real pumpkin patch. That's not the pumpkin patch experience. This is just a retail display full of beautifully washed pumpkins, for suburban families to come get their pumpkin. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted to pay a premium for. What I wanted was this pumpkin patch experience, and I can tell you the farm did very well charging suburban mom and dads $25 to ride in the back of a tractor and then to get dirty and pick out their own pumpkin and bring it home. I was happy to do it. We even tipped the tractor driver because he let my son drive a tractor. And anyway, it was a great experience. They engaged the experience sweet spot. They were able to hit all the corners on the duration and the booking, and I'm talking about it today. I know here in Clay County there's a similar example, right, with the farm, and we've been out to the farm. Amazing Grace, thank you. And we've been there for both the Sunflower Festival and then the other events. It was the first time we'd ever seen a corn bin, thank you, a corn bin, corn crib, thank you. I need one of these, is obviously, I don't know why they didn't sell corn crib kits on my way out, because I would have been a buyer for sure. On the other side is in the restaurant in the Jacksonville airport. It's what a lot of people see when they fly into the region. This is outside their local restaurant. They've got a little putting green. And here you can see they're theming the experience. Okay, not just the restaurant themselves, but outside the restaurant, kind of in your visual line of sight. Now, let's start thinking about what it is that we're doing here in Clay County and whether or not we're doing these things as well. Are we being authentic to the product or service that we're offering? Are we extending the visual cues out into the marketplace? These are great examples of other businesses doing it. Now this is our opportunity to see if we're going to do it ourselves. Don't know if we have website access, but this is the brand of eggs that my wife buys at the store. And this organic brand of eggs gives you a website where you can see the farm that your chickens are raised on that lay the eggs you're about to eat. I have spent hours looking at this farm. I have adopted several of these chickens in my heart. I love them as I love my own family. I'm rooting for their success, and it's very engaging. And it attaches me to the brand in a way that just buying something on the shelf never could. And if you haven't, is anyone familiar with this brand, this Vital Farms? Have you been to the farm? You need to go to this farm. Yes. And what we're learning here is, something that we're learning a lot about in the research, which is people want to see the process. They want to know how it's made. They want to know what's involved. This is the educational component again, but it's also aesthetically pleasing. It's also entertaining, right? It's also a form of escapism. You can leave your kind of daily email list and just go explore a farm. Now, if you live on a farm already, it might not be exciting to you, but the idea is that through the use of technology, I can explore a product that I never would have had an opportunity to explore before. Now, the same question has to be asked of your own product or service. If I'm not physically there to pay you money and do it, is there another way for me to experience it? And for the egg purchase and the egg farm, their answer is yes. And that's why they're probably one of the leading brands in that category. The question for you is, if it's yes or if it's no, how do we get you closer to a yes to be able to do that? I know on the golf market, for example, they have a program where they'll fly a drone through the golf course. You're going to keep me honest here with the way I'm describing it. But they'll essentially take a drone and fly it through the golf course and kind of show golfers what the golf experience would look like. And if you're preparing, when I heard that story, that reminded me of this movie called Cool Runnings, right? Where they're in the bathtub preparing for the bobsled race and they're practicing their turns. This is all part of taking the experience outside of the physical environment and moving it over to the digital environment where you can experience it constantly. I see here they're filming me today, for example, and I'm just already looking forward to the countless times I'll be watching myself digitally since I can't see myself here physically. This is a meeting room there is a website there. Can you connect to the web? No. There's a website here, and you could see the chickens, but you can't see it today. But you could do it on your phones. Yeah, go do that on your phone. You can also do that. This is a little placard outside a meeting room, and instead of just having the meeting room information, they've connected with the city tourism department to put little fast facts on the placard. Again, taking the experience of exploring the city and moving it to a different location. If you can't be out looking at the statues, at least you can be learning a little bit about the statue. So there's a lot of this cross-pollination that's going on, these community partnerships that are taking place. The true value of a partnership, right, is exposure to a new market that you would never be able to reach on your own. And that's what these are examples of. All right, anyone know what this is or where this is? Or what this is promoting? It's at the airport. Great answer. It's a race car. It's exactly right. This is for the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. Thank you. I'm glad somebody pronounced it for me first before I tried to pronounce it. This is, instead of just a poster for the event, they're giving me a chance to kind of appreciate what it is that I would see once I was there, and they have the physical car right out in front. And so now when I go online and I see that it costs $125 or something expensive to attend the event, at least I can recall a little sample of what I saw and say, okay, you know what? Based on what I saw at the airport for free, I'm willing to spend the money to see 100 more versions of this. This is not a new concept, right? If anyone's ever been to an ice cream store with a kid, or if you're a kid at heart, you know how exciting an ice cream store could be, ice cream store visit. So they're essentially cross-pollinating and doing the same things. There's a lot of problems that other industries have solved that our industry can learn from and take advantage of. You know, an amusement park has solved the riddle of how do I get somebody to pay to stand in line for 2 hours and then go on an amusement that lasts 2 minutes. If you're a hotelier, could you imagine having your guests stand in line for 2 hours before they could check in? Right? Just wouldn't work, wouldn't go over very well. So there are things that we could do, and one of the questions that we ask business owners is, if you think of something that currently is free, but you started to charge for it, what would be different about that particular experience? So let's say, for example, it's currently free to stand in line to check into your hotel room. Well, if you charge the guest $20 to stand in line and check into their room, you can start to make a checklist of all the things that would have to be different in order to justify that price increase. What I'm suggesting is that those things that you would do differently are essentially all the things you should be doing anyway in order to check off this amazing experience for the visitor. At the very least, acknowledge that these are things we know visitors will pay a premium to engage in. Oh, they don't let you sit in a car. By the way, that's important to note. However, it's more of a suggestion. There's no one really there to enforce it. Anyway, I'm bringing you the good stuff. This is also from an airport, Reno Tahoe International Airport. They know you're stuck there, so they want to educate you as best they can. This is a educational display on how they make the runway that the planes land on and take off on. And it shows you how thick the runway is and the material that it's made out of, and it compares it against other sorts of freeway concrete pavement material. So it's really bringing you through this process that, yeah, it's a concrete road, but it's different. It's different than the other concrete roads that you've seen, okay? And the theme that you're starting to get the hang of is that nothing so far is really like completely out of the box. Really, everything you're seeing is simply one iteration, one kind of next step, next level from what's already being done. You know, they've already got a poster for the car show. They've already got the cars because they're going to be showing them. Maybe they should call it a car look. Anyway, they've already got the runway. They've already got the engineering designs. So really, this is just one iteration next. Is anyone currently doing something like this from an educational standpoint, showing the customer a little bit behind the scenes? Smart, competitive advantage. Don't tell anyone. Next slide. Okay, so this is a little bit closer look up at the pumpkin patch here. This is little Jacob learning that his pumpkin was the winner of the best pumpkin selected from the pumpkin patch. You know, when you have those kids, you know, they're always winning stuff. You always have to make it so that they win everything. Anyone want to guess which one was his? The green one, right, the ugliest one. The ugliest one, but he had to win. He was very excited that he won it. And of course, he only knows of pumpkin patch like this. So now when we take him to the church pumpkin patch, he's going to be very disappointed. On the other slide is a little waiting area for kids. They got a little coloring book there, and they've made just the coloring book look like an art easel, thank you, or palette. And so again, nothing novel about having a little coloring station for kids, but they've just taken it to the next kind of premium level, and they've, again, themed it, made it part and parcel of what's going on. They even have premium pencils there, and they encourage you to color it in. At one of the coffee shops that I was at, they even have a little display where kids can put their color pictures and sell them like they're like 50 cents to sell these colored pictures, and the kids really like it because kids like things, and it's part of the experience. It's really part of the theming. Here again, we're going to move to the next slide. No, it's good. You keep me honest here. This is the span of a eagle's wingspan, and people like to go up there and put their arms against the wall and see if they can fly right, if they have the same wingspan as an eagle. This is at a Tree Hill Nature Center in Jacksonville area, and then of course the famous Duracell battery tester, Sizer. A lot of people don't know what size batteries they have, so kind of like that tire center example, you can bring your old battery in and kind of get a sense for what size it is and go in. I wish I had one for light bulbs. We have those little small disc lights in our kitchen, and those are the ones like where you wear the white gloves for, and I'm always buying the wrong size. Of course, I refuse to bring in the burnt bulb and compare it, but that's just me, I have to be right. Does anyone currently have any sort of these types of displays in their facility? These kind of engaging displays or no? Can anyone think of a property or a project where you wish they had something like this, or would make it a lot better? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we have the escape room around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Here, and one of the lots in there is a directional lot. It's not something that you typically find. So we have a display, and we actually have to physically make sure that they can open that lot. So it's on a couple of things. They get to play with it hands-on before they get it.
Perfect example, and for some that might make the difference, in deciding. And those escape rooms are very popular, right? Yeah. What's the success rate of that escaping? 100%. 100%? Sure.
100% you're going to have a good time.
Okay. Mm-hmm. He's not going to tell us. All right. So what we're essentially, kind of the riddle we're trying to solve here is, what's the least amount of extra work that I have to do in order to get more money from customers and visitors? That's essentially the business owner's riddle, okay? And what you've seen so far are a series of examples of how other business owners have solved this riddle, okay? You might not have a favorite brand of battery, but when you walk into a store and you see that Duracell has put forth the extra effort to educate you and kind of show you how to pick the right battery size, at least they're, they're getting out in front of the branding proposition. Very little effort. They're already sizing the batteries when they manufacture them anyway. Now they're just educating the consumer. This is a famous economics problem, which is a choice problem, right? Too many choices leads to paralysis. Here is a preserves, jams, butter, and jelly display at a local farmer's market kind of store. And you can see they have an abundance of things to choose from. And to make the process easier, they have a little placard, what's the difference? And here's the difference on preserves and jams and butters and jellies. They're making things easier for the consumer to decide. And we saw something similar when we were looking at the tire example. And we saw other examples when we were looking at the butterfly, life cycle of the butterfly, okay? And so in each of these instances, I'm trying to press the point that if you're offering something in which the consumer has to make a choice, then it's also incumbent upon you to make that choice as easy as possible. You cannot stop at the idea that you're offering it and your work is done. You're hands off. That's not the case at all. You have to continue to push the consumer to make the choice. The best version of events is when you push them to make the choice you want them to make. And the worst version of events is when they're so overwhelmed with choices that they leave without making any decision at all. And something like this kind of educational orientation allows them to do it. Now you can start to fill in the gaps for other things that a display like this might do, and then you can take your little fill in the blanks and apply it to your own business. So you're probably imagining things like a tasting center where you can taste the difference between these things. That would obviously be interesting. A canning video where you can see what is the process to move these things from, from tree to market, and so on and so forth. Now, it doesn't all have to be serious. You can have fun with it. This is outside my local vet's office. The parking sign is outside my vet's office. The Space Needle is our first new concept of the presentation, and that is memorabilia and a keepsake. We often find that there's no reinforcing mechanism that businesses give consumers when they purchase something or when they leave the establishment. Nothing. Think about when somebody pays you for something, you generally give them a receipt, and what do you think happens to that receipt? Trash. Now, the question for the business owner is, does that receipt represent your brand? To the consumer, it does, even if it doesn't to you. The consumer thinks that this receipt is emblematic of the brand. Same thing when you go to a gas station. You pull up to a gas station, if you see there's debris all over and it's not maintained, you project the same thing for the inside of the store. And maybe for the bathrooms, and you might decide to stop there or go somewhere else, as an example. And if that happens enough times at the same kind of establishment, you'll start to get a reputation. You can overcome this reputation by offering some sort of keepsake or memorabilia. All right, so let's pause here. What is the greatest piece of memorabilia anyone here might have ever received? While you're thinking, I'll give you a current topical example. On November 3rd, everyone's going to receive very noticeable memorabilia at the voting booth, right? The I voted sticker. These things don't have to be expensive. What do the winners get at the escape room? They get their picture taken, right?
Yeah. And in here on page 44, you see a picture of a family that got the picture.
On page 44?
And then they're free to post them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll post them on their own Facebook page.
Exactly. A lot of the festivals and events are getting flack because the memorabilia and receipt option is either digital, right? You pay on your phone, you show your phone, and then you're done with it. Or it's this generic colored wristband that you wear around for the day, and then you throw away. I'm suggesting that you move away from that. Although it might be expedient, it's not what the customer wants, and it doesn't help reinforce the brand after the event. After the event. And went to a car show last summer, and everyone who attended the car show got a Hot Wheels car when they entered. That was an interesting kind of memorabilia, nice little branding, for example. All right, so that was a good example at the escape room. Has anyone else traveled anywhere else where they've gotten a memorabilia or a physical ticket? Yes, ma'am.
My daughter's a competitive cheerleader, and she competes under the United Cheerleaders Association. So they, when they'll go to different competitions, and depending on the rank of the competition there, each of the registered athletes get these little pins that have the name of the event and the city that it took place in. So all of the cheerleaders collect these and stick them on their competition bags. So people are constantly checking out the girls to see where they competed, which competitions they've been in, and then like if you win those competitions, they give you some other type of thing to attach to it. So then depending on what you see where they traveled, what level competitor, et cetera, and that's like the big go-to for things.
Excellent example. If the only takeaway you had from the morning's presentation was whether or not I offer memorabilia at this activity, I hope that's what you take away, because it's the easiest way to differentiate the product, service, and experience from all others, is by offering that memorabilia. In some instances, you might even be able to charge for it, but in other cases, you could probably just absorb it in the cost of admission. Do you charge for the picture for the escape room, or is it built in? It's built in. Excellent. All right, let's get to theme. Theme's important. You want to maximize cues that are positive and eliminate cues that are negative. Trash and debris is an example of a negative cue. or anything that's not on brand is an example of a negative cue. Anything that amplifies the brand or highlights the brand theme or name would be an example of the theming. This is Moose Tracks ice cream. You can see they've taken a moose hoof imprint and put it on every ice cream as a way to reinforce the brand. And then this is another ice cream shop called Pelicans, and they have a little riddle here. A group of pelicans is called a scoop. And so again, from a theming perspective, right, you don't get a scoop of ice cream. You ask for a group of pelicans. And they're really kind of getting you immersed in what it means to be at that ice cream facility. Nothing better than telling your family, hey, it's time to go to the ice cream shop, have another business expense to make. They love that. And these things are simple to do. This is a water fountain that they've, looks like retrofitted here to include a little doggy bowl as an example. This gets to kind of duration. What do we want people to do while they're here? We want them to bring their dogs here. So what do? We offer a water bowl for dogs. If you've ever been to Chick-fil-A, they do something similar for the dogs, right? Little pup cream. And my local bank has little dog biscuits as well, right? They're trying to encourage me, let me know it's okay to bring my dog here. A lot of times, going back to this, what I opened with, where we live it every day, but our customers might go a year in between doing something, especially if you're an annual event. We need to remind customers of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, because our rules and regulations might have changed, or we might want to encourage a certain behavior that we hadn't encouraged before, and these are easy ways to do it. Bring your dog to the park with you is easier to promote if you have a water station for a dog, or if you have a box of tennis balls available for the dog. A lot harder to get away with saying, we're dog friendly, but then there's no baggy stations around for the scooping up. Next slide. Perfect. All right, so we're just kind of going through these same iterations, and as you're doing this, you're essentially saying, I do this or I don't do this. This is the history of the golf ball here. This is at a Murray Caddy Shack restaurant in World Golf Village. This gets to the idea of theming. Even the wall decor is reinforcing this idea of golf and the history of golf and the magnitude of the sport. A lot of arenas and convention centers have this theming problem. Let's say you go to the arena for an ice hockey game, and you walk in, and the first thing you see on the wall are poster displays for all the other events going on at the convention center, right? So it takes a while before that hockey theme gets reinforced. And so keep that in mind. How soon from when the person arrives is the theme of your establishment being reinforced? Is it in the parking lot? Is it when they walk into the lobby? Is it when they get to their room? Is it when they pay? All these things we have to keep in mind. What we learn from the evidence is that the sooner you can engage the theme before they purchase, the better. The longer you wait, usually the worse they score the experience. And so destinations try to do this right very well, where they say, okay, if you think you're coming, we're going to first send you this vacation planner, right, to try to get you engaged in the theme of the destination before you arrive. The next step, of course, is to keep them engaged once they leave, right? That's another challenge and puzzle that we have to solve. But our ability to do this, we know indexes higher on the experiential score. For this, like Murray Brothers, we suggested to them that that when you sign your check at the end of the meal, instead of getting a pen, you should get a little golf pencil, for example. Or instead of getting the the American Express bill holder, you should get that that golf sleeve that you get when you go play a round of golf. There's different ways and things that they can do to improve. Next slide. Oh, here we go. Here's my slide. So this is an example of the experience starting before the experience starts. At the local lens crafters, they have this QR code where you take a picture, and through your phone or computer camera, you can digitally try on different glasses styles and see what you would look like before you go into the store. And so essentially your experience starts before you go into lens crafters. You're always kind of, whenever you want to be trying on new glass styles, you can do it. This is an example of brand extension, And this is an example of them kind of getting a sense of how long do people spend in the store, where do they spend their most time, and is that acceptable to us? So they did this research. They saw people spent a lot of time in the store trying on different frames and seeing if they liked them or not. And a lot of people were walking out without buying anything. I know I'm guilty of that. I don't always have the time to do everything at once. And so they've removed the process of browsing from in-store to out-of-store. Perfect example of something that we can do with our with other things in our industry. This golden fire hydrant is outside of Ritz-Carlton. Again, theming, working with local city parks and recreation to say, no, we have to have that fire hydrant outside our property. But if we could just paint it gold, it would really go well with our Ritz-Carlton theme. Okay, lots of little things that can be done. Has anyone ever seen like Major League Baseball games where they paint the foul poles to look like pencils? And then they're sponsored by Office Depot? Just a clever example. I was just thinking of that. All right, so now we're getting into the wrap up here. We're going to show how all of these things get interconnected into one. This is an art display. This artist is trying to sell her art, and she has an option of just saying, here it is. If you think it's pretty, buy it. And if you don't think it's pretty or it's too expensive, then it's just not for you. And she's evolved this to include these experiential concepts that we've been illustrating and talking a little bit about today. In the bottom corner here, she's educating us and saying, yes, everything is done in colored pencil, showing us, kind of telling us how it was how it was made. And then in your right-hand side of the screen, she's showing the actual colored pencils, the tools of the trade, and a little bit picture of her and a little bit about her background. And so she's theming the experience. She's immersing you in her tools and her craft. She's showing you a little bit of the way. I think the only thing missing would have been a time-lapse video, maybe of how she made the work. But here she's basically removed all barriers that she knows consumers have in order for them to make a purchase decision. And we could be doing things like this as well in our industry. In fact, for those organizations that have, we know that it's led to increased revenue. So I've given this presentation a handful of times now, and sometimes this slide goes at the very front, and sometimes this slide goes at the very end. I have more success when I put it at the end, because I learned that numbers and reading are essentially the two things that audiences don't want to do when they have to look at the presentation. So now that we've done all the pretty picture looking, we can do a little bit of reading. Everything you saw falls into these four categories. And I'm suggesting that when you go back to your own businesses and think about the product or service or experience, you see if you can check these boxes off as well. Is there an educational component to what's being offered? Is everything aesthetically pleasing? Are things entertaining? Are they fun? And then is there an element of escapism, meaning escape from the daily life? Is everything they see reinforced with what the theme and brand is, or are there pockets of things that remind them that they could be somewhere else? Going back to this Disney example, the opposite would be Universal Studios. If you've ever been to Disney, or you can recall Disney, essentially when you're in a certain land or area, that's all you know and see. And that's part of what makes the experience so enjoyable. When you're at Universal Studios, which has a little bit of a smaller footprint, right, can't expand as much, one of the dings against Universal Studios is when you're in one area, if you look up, you can see roller coasters in different different other areas of the park just by looking up. So you could be, in Dr. Seuss land and look up and you could see the Simpsons land, across the lake. And so they haven't quite captured all of the elements of the escapism yet. When you're in the escape room, you're surrounded. You're not thinking of anything else, right, except that particular attraction. So just things to keep in mind. This is the checklist. This is the page where you want to take notes and make sure you can do these things. These are examples of what those four things might be. And again, you can walk around your facility, take your own pictures. And what we do is we index these things. So some of the educational things are more educational than others. Some are more accessible or less accessible. Some of the escapism is more immersive right? Or less immersive. So there's different degrees in which you can satisfy these requirements. But essentially here you see an education example, an aesthetic example, an escapism example, and an entertainment example. In some cases, it might satisfy more than one. When I go online to the farm, it's satisfying more than one quadrant, but it's also clearly in one of the quadrants. When I'm looking at the antique vehicle, right, it's satisfying a few of those items, but the point is that it's one iteration more than what they were doing previously. It's more than just the poster. It's more than just the website link. It's the actual physical embodiment of what it is. These were the examples of your ability to focus on theme and your ability to create something unique. I go to lots of parks. Very few of the parks have their own butterfly garden. Even fewer of the parks have their own educational display about what that butterfly garden is or what's involved in there. I think the only thing missing would be, if they had a little take-home card where, put a butterfly garden in your backyard. $200 from Home Depot. I think I would do something like that. But these are examples of focusing on the theme. And I'm suggesting that a lot of our local tourism businesses have a long way to go to make sure that we can focus on the theme as well. And then finally, priority alignment on booking method. This allows you to obtain maximum revenue. This is from the local zoo. When I made this presentation, keep in mind, I'm sitting like this close to my computer screen so I could read it. But now that I see you're in the audience, it's probably a little bit harder to read. This is how you book your ticket to the zoo. You have to do it online, buy tickets, or make a reservation. You cannot buy your tickets you can't buy your tickets walking up to the gate. This was implemented, of course, for social distancing and related to COVID-19. But this is likely a policy they're going to keep. They like the idea that you have to book your reservation ahead of time and online. That's something valuable to them. They like that. For obvious reasons, right? Because they don't have to man the station anymore to process tickets. They can free up that line item, and they can also start to manage the experience before they arrive. That's the most important thing. They can start the orientation process early. Oh, there you go. That's a close-up of it. Those are the hours of popularity for the zoo, but it could be for anything, for example. You can see they're not popular between 9 and 10, but most popular between noon and 1. So from a management perspective, they're probably asking, how do I get more people to come when the gates open between 9 and 10? And this data at least allows them to know that that's a revenue opportunity that they have. Same thing for you if you ever have a bottleneck problem or a peak period and you're trying to shift demand. Engaging these experiential components is an easy way to do that. Some places do it, they don't even know. Publix, for example, has this sign up that says, please allow the 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. shopping hour to be for our most seasoned shoppers. And that's an experience that we know people value and want to do. Okay, so this is pretty much everything we talked about. We did the experience sweet spot, and those are those 4 quadrants. We did a lot of pictures. We focused on the theme, and you wanted to be thinking about your own experience and whether or not you have the ability to focus on your theme or not. I was thinking at the escape room, for example, since you participated, it would be really funny if once they took their pictures and they left, that you like pressed a little button and you locked the front door too. And then they say, aha, this is the escape room. Okay. Booking method, you saw a lot of stuff shifting to online. The duration of the engagement, of course. The amount of time you think someone should spend doing the thing that you're selling is not always the same amount of time the customer's spending, so keep that in mind. And then these things will lead to increased demand, and increased demand, of course, gives you pricing power. One final story to close this out here on pricing power and demand and kind of taking all these elements into one, comes from a ski resort in Vermont. And the ski resort in Vermont was having trouble because of the COVID-19 restrictions, and they could only allow so many people on the mountain at a time. And similar to the restaurant industry, the ski industry it doesn't work at reduced capacity. Just not in the cards for them from a revenue standpoint. So what they decided to do was, instead of selling individual ski passes, they sold 2-week quarantine packages. For 2 weeks, your family can have their own cottage and unlimited access to the ski slopes and some food and beverage options for $15,000. This is just a revenue management game, right? They could have 1,000 people at $15, or one family for $15,000. Anyone want to guess how many packages they sold? They sold out. Yeah, they sold. Are you familiar with the story? No. They sold over 200 packages. They were anticipating selling 8 packages. They thought they'd sell 8. They sold over 200. Just totally remade their whole season, totally remade their whole business model. Didn't change anything except try to understand the duration of the engagement component to the experience and ask themselves, if instead of focusing on the day tripper from the region or the overnight stay or even the weekend getaway, what if we focused on that quarantine traveler, the family that 2 weeks didn't matter because they were digital nomads anyway? And that's what they went after, and they really won. And that's a great example of what we can be doing here locally, is playing with some of the ways that we're in the market, playing with some of the ways that we present ourselves to travelers and customers at little to no risk, okay? And then starting to track our results and amplifying the things that work for us. Question in the back, or?
Just a comment, just so that you may be added to your presentation, but space travel, commercial space travel.
Yeah.
So just as an aside, for $90,000, any one of us could sign up to take a balloon ride to 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where space is going to. And so another pricing point, if you think about it, I'm sure I would not spend $90,000 for that, but there are people operating it. And I think you're going to start to see that more and more as we progress.
Yeah. When I work with clients, one of the starting points that we get them to start with is, if you donated something to an auction, what would it generally be, right? And it's usually something like big or grand, behind the scenes tour with, or lunch with. It's usually an experience that you wouldn't get somewhere else. Depending on your resources, you can go in any direction. American Express, for example, offers these premium experiences for music and concerts, trying to capture that segment of the market, for example. Other internet-based retail establishments, they're going after the price discount. If you ever purchase something online, then they follow up with a message, your next order is 10% off. So there are different approaches to solving this riddle, and you want to find what works best for you. But essentially, these 6 checklist items will get you further faster than any other approach. Okay, these are, again, for your notes. Figure out where you index. Are you able to check off those boxes? See what consumers are telling you, and see how far apart what consumers say they value in what you're offering. The duration of the experience is a perfect place to start. And then discuss with your team kind of how you can fill in those gaps. Is it worth pursuing? In Vermont, they didn't decide overnight to just start charging $15,000 for a 2-week stay. They looked at the data, they looked at their market, they knew what their capacity limits were, and they made the tough decision to put it in market and see what happens. Worst case scenario, they could say, well, they were no further along than they were when there were restrictions on the mountain. But now they're able to claim, $2 million revenue windfall, whereas once none existed before. I paid a premium to go see a pumpkin patch and ride in a tractor. I know that there's consumers that will pay a premium to do something in your organization, in your business, that is the same thing that they would have gotten, but just with these extra elements, these one iteration higher elements that we spoke about today. With that in mind, I'm going to stop here for your round of applause, and then we'll move into any questions. Okay, round of applause now. Great, and now questions or discussions or examples? Does anybody want to use their own business as an example? You've heard this presentation and you're thinking, I'm going to do this one thing right away when I get back to the office.
Actually, Brian, a lot of this are with municipality or government type agency, but I think in terms of government agency, I think we can do the same thing. Somebody comes to the tax collector's office, we could actually detail something behind the scenes as they're waiting and standing, although they don't stand in line all that long, but I think you can still do the same thing, to demystify what happened in terms of what's going on in the local government.
Yep, excellent example of demystifying, and I know a lot of residents, they might not understand how local government works. And of course, the elected officials in this room have made life a lot easier for local residents, I know. And you'll have a poster this afternoon to show, exactly. I see one of the commissioners wearing his name on his shirt, is that right? Yes, see, educating the resident, that's very smart. Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank you, Brian. And y'all, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that we're going to be helping you with, when the USA Cycling National Championship comes in June, we're going to give you some ideas on how to be bike-friendly businesses so that you can really target that market. Okay, so we're all in this together, not just the pandemic, but in growing your business. That's what we are here to brainstorm with you. If you want us to set up a brainstorming session, y'all just call. We'd love to help you enhance your experience because that's what sells. That's what brings people here is that experience. So y'all, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here. Thank you to Bob and the Thrasher Horn team here. Y'all, have you seen their schedule? They are bringing some great shows here. So y'all, that's a great experience opportunity. Dining in a show, package, a hotel stay, a romantic getaway in a show. Y'all, there's great experiences. And so thanks to Urban Bean for breakfast. And thank y'all for doing what you do every day to create these great experiences. We could not do what we do without you. So have a great day and go Clay County.